is Azimio Coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for allowing Azimio Coalition time to do a replacement, because management of political parties is left for political parties and the leadership of political parties. But I want to thank you and congratulate you, Mr. Speaker, for this ruling. You are spot on, and I agree with you totally and entirely. But, Mr. Speaker, something else that I wanted to mention is, I think, Mr. Speaker, much as we disagree, let us be a honorable House. Much as we disagree, there are some words that we should not use in this House. It should not be allowed, whether from the majority or from the minority side. We need to respect ourselves first, because there are some words, when you use them here, it's a clear indication of lack of respect to self. Yes. And I would not want to participate or sit in a House where people don't respect themselves. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it is high time that you become a little bit harsh as the chair. Because, Mr. Speaker, in the absence of that, then clearly, we lose it as a House. And, Mr. Speaker, whether it came from this side or that side, it is equally bad. So, and majority leaders, kindly lead us with, please show the example to all of us. Show us example by first behaving with decorum. Then the rest of us will follow. But sometimes, Mr. Speaker, the problem I have with my friend Kimani Ichung'wah, and you know he's a young man, he's far much younger than me, and he's my friend, and I've been mentoring him, but sometimes he veers off the rail. He's now my leader in the House, but he knows that I'm his leader. I came here before he came. I went to school before him. I became an accountant before him. So, Mr. Speaker, in all aspects, he has a lot to learn from me. Thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, it's giving me the image that I'm training someone who is untrainable. I have been training the majority leader for a very long time. I want him to lead this House, Mr. Speaker, on a serious matter. You lead this House. You are the majority leader of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, including those of us who are in the minority. You are the leader. In fact, you are second in command to the Speaker in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, henceforth, I would want to see a total paradigm shift from Kimani Ichung'wah as the majority leader of this House. Let them lead us, and Honorable Wandai as minority leader, to be here most of the time. Yes, let them lead us. We need leadership in this House. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to stop.
Robert Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Based on past practices in this House, normally once a Speaker has delivered a ruling, you cannot be able to appeal directly, but you're allowed to make some comments. Yes. And in these comments, Honorable Speaker, I expected the minority leader to be magnanimous enough, agree with your ruling, and be able to even stay in this House to listen, because in the first place, he did not listen even the first part of the Speaker's ruling. He was not even in touch with what the Speaker had ruled. And after making his comments, and I think Honorable Mbadi, in the first parliament, we used to have Chakoyo Midio here, and Honorable Chakoyo Midio would sit throughout all the rulings. Then you came in the 12th parliament, and you would sit here and listen to all the rulings, and you'll even discuss across with Honorable Duale and consult. That is actually a missing link that we are now observing in this House, where the minority leader is too emotional. You know, we need this House to be sober. We need this House, we need leadership from also him as a leader of the minority. He's the leader of the alternative government in the House. And therefore, he's not just carrying his own personal emotions, Because for the past, he's been making here comments that are almost personal. That should not be the case. So, Honorable Speaker, those are my observations, and I think we need to learn from each other and respect each side of the House. Thank you.
Lillian Kogo. I'll give you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. And the ruling which you have made, Honorable Speaker, is facts on sheet. You've talked about wordings that are on the standing orders that guide this House. So it implores all of us to listen. And as has already been said by those who have spoken ahead of me, Honorable Speaker, this should be a house of order and respect, honor, dignity, an august house. And I had mentioned this earlier, Honorable Speaker, and I like it when ranking member of parliament in the person of the Honorable Mbadi gives his advice as a member to his brother and majority leader. But I also wonder, Honorable Speaker, because more often than not, I realize that the majority speaker has the space to speak whatever time he wishes and on whatever matter and for whatever length of time. But it is sad, Honorable Speaker, that the majority leader speaks on anything and everything. Scarcity creates value. How I wish that on certain matters, the Honorable Ichung'wah would go without mentioning names of members as the majority leader. Because you're dealing with members of parliament who are also politicians. And when they are adversely mentioned in the House, Honorable Speaker, they are bound to answer. And this is what creates chaos. If we would have our majority leader and our minority leader sit together, I think this House would take better direction in terms of its debate and our responsibilities to the nation. I thank you, Speaker.
Morogara. I'll give you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Have a minute each, please.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to laud your ruling. I have listened to it carefully, to every word you have actually pronounced, and I got to say I was in agreement fully in all matters of fact and in all matters of law. We cannot appeal against that ruling. I doubt whether we can even seek a review unless there are cogent grounds upon which we can do so. When it comes to decorum of the House, it is vitally important that we actually sustain the dignity of the House at all times. Of late, we have had members who are actually shouting unprintables across the aisle. And this is dangerous. It must be discouraged because at all times, we must preserve your seat. You are the seat of parliament.
Okay, Kainan. 1 minute, so compose your words quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have been in the past parliament. This ruling, I will say, is a Solomonic ruling. I may not agree with every bit of it because as Jubilee, we expected you to declare as a parliamentary party.
I've given you 30 days.
But you have given us 30 days.
Yeah.
That 30 days, and I want to apply to the mind of my good friend, Honorable Wandai, that 30 days does not apply to Jubilee alone. Even Azimio must put its house in order, and Jubilee is one of the constituent parties that Azimio or ODM by that extension will not be allowed to dominate. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is this. The reason why we are called August House is because this is a house of respect. This is a house of tolerance. This is a house of traditions. And therefore, each one of us must subscribe to this very tenet and respect the office of the Speaker. You have done something unprecedented. This is the first time I'm seeing the decision of the Speaker being discussed. I hope this is not going to lead us to something else that is going to be unprecedented. And finally, what I want to say is this. We as Jubilee, and Mr. Speaker, the ruling will have its own interpretation. My interpretation, now that you have opened this, that Azimio must put its house in order and accept the concerns of Jubilee. Jubilee, as a consensus party, must also put its house in order.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Honorable members, I want us to end here so that we go to other business. I just want to echo the words of Honorable Mbadi and the seniors in this house, Kainan, Mbadi, and those who have done at least 3 years and above, that this house will be remembered because of your conduct. You will go down in history as either a member of parliament who came to this house, clowned yourself for 5 years, and then walked away. And Wananchi are watching. I want to encourage the seniors from this side, particularly Honorable Mbande, Honorable Otienda Amolo, senior lawyer, implore upon your leadership to give a little more time to the house and to give a little more respect to the conduct of business in the house. And Mbadi, you are spot on. I stand here as a father figure to many, many of you because of the longevity of my stay in this house. I first came to this house in 1992. And as a very young person, I sat on the speaker's panel. And I hit the ground running, learning how to run the house. I sat on this chair in the presence of greats like the late President Mwai Kibaki, the late George Saitot, the late Wamalwa Kijana, the late Mzee Moi, the late Wamalwa Kijana, Mudi Awori, Professor Rashid Mzee, Paul Mwite, and many others, including now the departed Mutiso. The Honorable Raila Odinga, we walked in this house for the first time on the same day. Mercurial debaters like James Orengo and many others. And at no time, President William Ruto found me here and we worked together. I want to encourage you members. This journey is long and you'll pass through some very slippery grounds. Sometimes you may think you know everything when you know nothing. And that is what gets us off the rails. Leadership is a privilege, it's not a right. And when we come to this house, Mbandi, keep on talking to our colleagues in the manner you did, that here, when you are given an opportunity to lead, please lead. I have been extremely courteous to every member, and I will continue doing so, but we will try to enforce the rules of the House. There are 3-4 members I have noted who are taking for granted the magnanimity of the chair, and that is not right. I saw one member yesterday confront the honorable member for Dagoretti North to ask her why she's sitting here when the rest have gone out. It is not your duty as a member to picket members out of the house. Every member is here on their own right. Honorable Otienda Amolo is here to represent the people of Rarieda, and that responsibility is not shared unless he wants to share it himself. Because at the end of the day, you answer questions to the people who cast the vote for you. And I want to encourage us that the length we have been here, even if we are slow at learning, we learned something. And it's good to listen when we tell you what to do. I'll administer this house without any fear or favor and with absolute fairness. We want a house that everybody out there looks at in admiration. That's why you have a host of students who come here sitting in the gallery. When your students or your children sit up there and hear the words that the Honorable Babu Wino uttered here on the floor, they shudder. They shudder. And I want to encourage Honorable Mbadi, Honorable Otienda Amolo, Honorable Kainan, you are the seniors. Talk to these young colleagues and tell them that sometimes you may be quick to answer, quick to speak, but the good book of the Lord, the Bible says, always be quick to listen and slow to answer. You will be able to get away with many things. Next order. Kaluma, I'm told you are also senior.
Order number
Yes, and I acknowledge that. Next order.
Order number 13, motion. General debate on the proposal to Parliament to consider amending the Constitution and the standing orders.
The mover of this motion, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I beg to reply to the motion on the general debate on the proposal to consider the constitutional amendments and our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you did mention, we have indeed interacted with this motion for the better part of this session, and indeed even went ahead to amend the standing orders, and that is why in the last 3 weeks we have been able to have cabinet secretaries in plenary, and this is part of the issues that we were in this particular motion, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm also aware, and I had an engagement this morning with the Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa, the former Member of Parliament for Malindi, on the question of the 2/3 gender rule, and I am aware that all our women parliamentarians have been keenly following this debate, and indeed following the work that is also going on elsewhere in the executive and with parts of our civil society. And I did attend a forum by our women parliamentarians at Radisson Blue Hotel sometime last month, but one, Honorable Speaker, on this question of the 2/3 gender rule. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, as much as we did even establish the ad hoc committee, I want to plead with those members under the chairmanship of Honorable Chepkonga and the other leaders in the Senate to ensure that you now embark on the real work of ensuring that the 2/3 gender rule question is now resolved and constitutionally, and also the issue of creation of the office of the leader of official opposition. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, as the Honorable John Buddy has said, as you have said, it is time that we got good and courageous leadership in the House, leadership that will not abrogate their responsibilities by walking out of the House. We need leaders who will be able to lead the opposition and the minority side, whether they are outside the House or inside the House. And that's why I strongly support this proposal to create the office of the leader of official opposition, Honorable Speaker, because this gives the country an opportunity to hear those alternative policies and ideas that could be alternatives to the government that is in office at any particular time. And Honorable Speaker, as many members said when they were contributing to this debate, the office of the leader of official opposition is not being created for any particular individual. This is an office that is being created for posterity, to deepen and enhance our democracy, Honorable Speaker. And I want to appeal to the ad hoc committee members here and those in the Senate to indeed work with utmost speed to ensure that we get constitutional amendment bills before the House when we resume for the next session of this, the next part of this session, Honorable Speaker, of this 13th Assembly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I did mention, the question of the 2/3 gender rule, Honorable Speaker, is something that we have tried over the years and failed almost close to 4 times. I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, now with the goodwill that I listened to as all members contributed, both here in the Senate, Honorable Speaker, that we will see the realization or the actualization of this 2/3 gender rule in this 13th Assembly. Honorable Speaker, on the question of NGCDF, I know, Honorable Speaker, and I'm aware that there are still court cases before our judiciary. And even as those go on, Honorable Speaker, it is important that we entrench our NGCDF funds in the Constitution so that in future, neither the GAF, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, NGCDF, or even the proposed Senate Oversight Fund will ever be challenged in court on the basis of those funds being unconstitutional. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, let me just join what the Speaker was saying in imploring on all of us as leaders that as much as we want to create other offices like that of the leader of official opposition, Honorable Speaker, And in line with what the Honorable Speaker has done in his ruling, asking on our minority side to put their house in order, and even our old party Jubilee, that even those of us who have, serve now in the minority and enjoy that rare privilege of leading those in the minority, and congratulate many of these members in the minority who never followed their leadership in staging a walkout. Honorable Speaker, as the Speaker and as Honorable John Buddy has said, let us lead from the front. Let us come to this house because we are paid, Honorable Speaker, by our constituents. Even those of us who are leaders, we enjoy a responsibility allowance as leaders to lead the rest of the teams, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, there is no time I will ever walk out of this chamber because I do not agree either with the Speaker or with a colleague in the minority. And even some of the issues that have been raised, for instance, by the Honorable member for, not Rarieda, the Honorable member, what's her name, that lady? I've forgotten her name, Honorable Speaker. Lydian Gogo, Honorable Speaker. There is absolutely nothing with a member mentioning the Honorable Zamzam by name. My name is mentioned in this house every now and then. Every member of parliament from the minority who wants to make their name out there, in their speech, they must mention the name of Kimani Ichung'wah or the leader of majority. And I allow them, and I don't get emotional about it. I bear a lot of insults from the minority, and I take it in my stride. I want to implore on the leadership in the minority to also have the patience and the emotional intelligence to be able to deal with both the membership that they are leading and even the membership on the side that I lead. And we exercise patience and that emotional intelligence to be able to decipher what is for this floor, what is for out there in the rallies, what is for the streets, and what is for the corridors of parliament. Even as we ask that we all conduct ourselves with utmost dignity, those throwing of barbs at the Speaker are things that we should never entertain, Honorable Speaker. So that even when we create this office of the Leader of Official Opposition, we want this to be a respectable office. Whoever that leader will be, whether it is our good friend, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, whether it is our good friend, the Honorable Raila Odinga, whether it is the Honorable John Buddy who will take up that position of the Leader of Official Opposition, we must, or the Honorable Kaluma, or indeed the Honorable Karoli Omondi, a seasoned businessman and a respectable leader from Suba, who can lead the minority. If he takes up that position, we want to be able to hold him with esteem and respect. But respect, again, is two-way. And therefore, I want to ask that if you demand respect, you must also respect others. If you demand to be treated well, you must also treat others well. And therefore, I want to pray that as we conclude this debate on this motion, as I reply, Honorable Speaker, we will have time during the recess to have the ad hoc committee. The Honorable Chepkonga did inform me that they are scheduled to sit today. And that is why I even sought the Speaker's indulgence to reorder business so that we close this debate and allow the ad hoc committee and the other interest groups that are interested in this matter to engage on all the items from NGCDF, NGAF, Senate oversight, to the Leader of Official Opposition, to the two-thirds gender rule. And I know, Madam Speaker, you are very keen on this. You had a bill that we indeed requested you, and you are gracious enough to allow us time to be able to debate this. And I want to assure you, Madam Speaker, that we will push this ad hoc committee to see to it that we come to realize the actualization of that two-thirds gender rule. Because this House, with all the beautiful ladies here, Honorable Speaker, and many more who would join, is richer, and our democracy is richer. Our gracious ladies, I think, exercise more emotional intelligence than many of us men who tend to be forceful and insultive at each other. But our ladies, being mothers and being our sisters, are more gracious, and therefore our democracy will only be better and richer, having more women participate in leadership positions, even as we mentor our young ladies, our young girls who come to this house, be it from Catholic University, be it those young student leaders who came from Homa Bay Town constituency, represented by the Honorable Kaluma, who, as the Speaker noted, is also serving not just as a senior leader, but also serving in the Speaker's panel. And I pray to God that he will be able to emulate the Speaker. And maybe at some point in the future, he will be the first member of Parliament from Homa Bay County to serve as Speaker of the National Assembly or the Senate at some time in the future. I said National Assembly or the Senate, not Homa Bay County Assembly. Honorable Speaker,
We'll put the question at the later time. So let's move to the next order.
Order number 12. Order number 12, motion. Consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 26 constituencies.
We shall resume debate on this. The Honorable Joseph Makilap, member for Baringo North. Not there. The Honorable John Kiarie, member for Dagoretti.
Very much, Madam Speaker. I was very keen to speak to an earlier issue, but the matter on the floor is of concern to every member of Parliament. And the issue of CDF is a matter I would like to put my voice to, because, Madam Speaker, any member here will tell you the import of this fund called National Government NGCDF. And in fact, if there is any one thing that this House should do, this House should actually take up CDF to the level of CDF 2.0. It is the Honorable Karue who brought up a fund that has become a spectacle in this country, and even internationally. People are recognizing that there is a way that you can devolve funds to the farthest part of the country and it becomes effective. Madam Speaker, in the life of this Parliament, we must seek to see how we can bring up CDF to a level where it becomes a leading light even for the people who are running counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, juxtaposition has been done over and over again that if you go to your constituency and you compare the amount of monies that are coming to your constituency in terms of CDF and compare the same in terms of the monies that come to the constituency through devolved funds in the county, Madam Speaker, it is like heaven and hell. It is like a day and night, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I do want to imagine that this House shall take advantage of the matter that has been brought to the House to not only debate it as a miscellaneous amendment, but when we get to the third reading, Madam Speaker, for us to put in good bills that will bring us to CDF 2.0, where we not only establish it in the law, but also build it up in terms of the monies that are allocated as a percentage to the national budget, so that, Madam Speaker, this good fund can keep doing the good things that it does in the constituencies. I do appreciate this opportunity, Madam Speaker, and I do support.
Point of order. Yes, what's your point of order, Honorable Okello?
Madam Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity. Just a little while back, I raised an issue of withdrawal of security by the police, and I was directed by the Speaker to do a letter to the Majority Leader so that he can pursue issues of reinstatement of security to those who have been affected like myself. And Honorable Speaker, I want to go public now as I deliver the letter to our majority leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Please receive your letter.
What's your point of order, Majority Leader?
A point of order within a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, I know I appreciate the Honorable Jared Okello, is it Okello? Okello's attempt, but the Honorable Jared Okello knows that the leader of majority is a constitutional office with an office. And therefore, these theatrics and drama are truly unnecessary in the House, Honorable Speaker, and I want to request that you do order him completely out of order, and if he has letters or parcels to deliver them to my office, to the office of the leader of majority, and it will be duly attended to.
I'm sure that's duly noted. The Honorable Member for Molo, Honorable Kuria Kimani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I stand here to support the general debate on the proposal to Parliament to consider on the issue of the report by NGCDF, the audit report as per our standing orders. Honorable Speaker, I have stated at the floor of this House that I am a product of NGCDF. Madam Speaker, when I cleared my Class 8 at Mwangi Buchige Primary School in Mukinyai and got admitted to join a national school, my grandfather who brought me up could not afford to pay school fees for me for the school that I was admitted to go. And as a result, Madam Speaker, I found myself at Kieni Secondary School, a mixed-day secondary school at Kiringero, Subukia in Subukia constituency. Madam Speaker, even with that admission to a district day mixed secondary school, we couldn't still afford the school fees for that school. My villagers had to do a fundraise, and I remember one we call her Shosho Virginia, who really contributed her everything because she didn't have a child of her own to take me to school. Honorable Speaker, it was a then Member of Parliament, the Honorable Mukiri Macharia, through his staff, his member of staff, one Mr. Karanja Wageshe from Witima, who approached my grandfather and told him that we could actually apply for bursary funds for me to go through secondary education. Honorable Speaker, that's how I went through secondary school from the year 2002, 2005, to be one of the first people in my secondary school to qualify to be admitted to public university by just missing a mean grade of an A, in my case, SC by 1 point, despite going through a district mixed day secondary school. So every time I see this discussion about NGCDF, for me it's personal. Every time I think about the millions of students in this country who would like to be in a boarding school, who would like to be in a school that has a name that was of repute in this country, perhaps like Precious Blood Ruta, or Alliance Boys, or Alliance Girls, or closer home to Molo Academy, to Marymount, to all those big name schools, but cannot afford to get there. Because even affording transport to go to those schools would be a nightmare. I really identify with those students. And Honorable Speaker, when I took my candidature to the people of Molo to be the Member of Parliament in 2017, I made a commitment. In fact, for my re-election bid in 2022, which was based on my performance, because the people of Molo have never re-elected anyone for the last 30 years until yours truly became the first person for the last 30 years to be re-elected to the position of Member of Parliament for Molo constituency. I told them, where did you elect me? And of course, Honorable Speaker, our polling stations are either our primary schools or secondary schools. And I told my people, if you go to where you voted for me, whether it's that primary school or whether it's that secondary school, and you find it the same way it was when you voted for me in 2017, do not vote for me again. And they did vote for me because all the polling stations, everywhere where people went to vote in the last election, in my constituency, there was a difference. We had either renovated the school, we had the first permanent building in that school, and if it was a day secondary school, I told them that by my 5 years tenure, I will make sure that we have 100% equipped and complete science laboratories in all the day secondary schools in my constituency. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying again here that I was re-elected on that merit. So when the issues of NGCDF come to this House, and the reports that we are hearing today, where some have mismanaged the funds sent to their constituencies, and some are being well applauded on the equalization that has been done in our education system. Because, Honorable Speaker, the availability of infrastructure in our schools, the availability of a fund where people that cannot be able to pay school fees have a recourse to go to through bursaries. When we can do scholarships for the very needy families in this country and make sure that they go to school, then that becomes an equalizer in our society. Honorable Speaker, nobody wants to be poor. Nobody wants to be born poor. And certainly, nobody wants to die poor. On the being born poor, it's not a choice of anyone in the Republic of this country. If you all be asked, we would be born in privileged families where we could have everything that we would want. But that is not the reality. So the only way we could bridge that gap between those born in privileged families and those born in absolute poverty, in underprivileged families, in families of need, if we made sure that our public education system gets to work. Honorable Speaker, in my normal line of interaction, I meet some people who tell me they went to school in Molo. And in my imagination, I always think, so where did you go to school in Molo? And some will tell me I went to Molo Academy, I went to Marymount, like my wife did, I went to Elbagon Secondary School. Those people, especially, that are doing well in their careers. But one of the instances, I met somebody who told me I went to Turi. Honorable Speaker, Turi is one of the wards, one of the rural wards in my constituency, because my turn wards will be Elbagon and Molo. So I was very curious to find out, which school did you go to Turi? Only for himself, okay, I actually went to St. Andrews. In my imagination, Honorable Speaker, I do not count St. Andrews, Turi, as one of the schools in my constituency. Until someone did tell me that they actually went to Turi, and when I thought they probably went to Turi Secondary School, or to St. Bridan Secondary School, or to Mianzini, they actually told me that they went to St. Andrews. It took me a further surprise during one of the travels facilitated by this parliament, when waiting at an airport in Paris, I got to meet a former cabinet secretary for finance in Nigeria. And then when I told him what I do, he says, "You're a member of parliament in Kenya?" "I know Kenya. I'm an MP for Molo." "Oh, my kids go to school there." Then I asked, "Oh." And tells me all her children have gone to St. Andrews Turi School. And that's when I realized, actually, that St. Andrew's Turi is such a respectable school across the region, and where many respectable people across the globe want to take their children to. And that was, Honorable Speaker, in 2018. And I asked myself, how can I make sure that the schools in Molo constituency can have such a repute as St. Andrew's Turi? We are not there yet. But Honorable Speaker, 99% now of my schools in Molo constituency have a complete and equipped science laboratory, courtesy of NGCDF. Honorable Speaker, in light of the digitalization of our economy, in this 5 years term that we just started in August, I have made a commitment with my people that will make sure that every secondary school will have an equipped and complete ICT laboratory. And because of the new system of junior secondary schools, I also make sure even our junior secondary schools actually have a science laboratory, so that education can become an equalizer.
Thank you. The Honorable Professor Phyllis Bartow, member for Moiben. No, she's not here. Her card is okay. The Honorable John Gitonga, member for Manyata. Okay, the Honorable Mugambi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join my colleagues on this important discussion concerning the CDF. Madam Speaker, I stand here as a proud member of Parliament for steering this important fund to development for our schools and for bursaries for our kids. Madam Speaker, we were privileged to go to very important schools, boarding schools, etc., etc. Madam Speaker, those days, we didn't have so many schools because the population was also very low. But now as the population continued, the need for education, the need for more infrastructure, the need for more classrooms, the need for more facilities in our education started becoming a problem. Madam Speaker, I stand here to certify that through CDF, we have given opportunity to the disadvantaged children within our constituencies. Madam Speaker, we have given opportunity for children from parents who are disabled to continue with their education. We have given opportunity through CDF, orphans, single mothers, children from very poor families get from CDF. Madam Speaker, it is through education that we will be able to create equality between the rich and the poor. Madam Speaker, through CDF, good infrastructure, good bursaries, we have elevated the children that many people thought they will never succeed in education. Madam Speaker, I stand here to certify that through CDF, we have created doctors, we have created engineers, pilots, administrators, good citizens. If it wasn't there, we would not have created these people in our midst. As I'm speaking today, Madam Speaker, I have a student who used to sleep with a watchman in the school from a very poor family. That student now is doing neurosurgeon at the University of Nairobi. courtesy of CDF. So when somebody mismanages this fund for whatever reason, it really creates a bad image for the entire membership as members of parliament, but it's somebody who has no caring for these disadvantaged people. Madam Speaker, through CDF, we have seen the youth activities being promoted in our constituencies. Through CDF, we have created opportunities for sports and talent growth. We have created opportunity for athletics because, like my constituency, Madam Speaker, Bore constituency, we have embarked during last parliament, we embarked on a process of developing playing grounds. And I'm proudly saying that already we have created opportunities for 18 schools where we have developed playing grounds for our children. Madam Speaker, we have used the CDF to create infrastructure for our security, where we didn't have police posts, we have used CDF for that purpose. Where we didn't have laboratories, we have created laboratories. And I will invite the committee of CDF to visit Bore constituency to see the kind of laboratories and libraries that we have put up through CDF. Madam Speaker, the CDF has a facility for environment. And I want to thank the community of Bore, the school fraternity, the parents, and the community and pupils and teachers. Because through CDF, we've been able to acquire seedlings, and now we are replanting the trees that are readily available for afforestation. So, Madam Speaker, when a member or a fund manager or anybody associated with CDF mismanages this, it really defeats the logic. And it calls for us as leaders to review our integrity. Madam Speaker, I spend a lot of time ensuring that no single amount of CDF is misused. That's why we have been able, in all our 87 primary schools, we have an infrastructure program in all our schools. There are some schools that we have put up 100% from standard 1 all the way to standard 8. There are secondary schools that we have developed new. There are secondary schools and primary schools that were dilapidated. But now when you go there, our children are enjoying. Madam Speaker, seeing children attending class with no widows. Mr. Speaker, I didn't notice your presence. I thought it was a ghost, Madam Mr. Speaker, apologies.
Speaker can never be a host. Order.
Proceed. On a light note, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can't understand why somebody is not so insensitive that our children are going to classes without windows, without floors, without desks, and it's something that can be verifiable. And yet, you mismanage that fund. It shows that some leaders have no moral integrity. And I don't want to be put in that category. That's why I made a commitment that we shall use every coin for our CDF to ensure that is comfortable. I mean, our kids are comfortable. We have embarked on a process of ensuring that now we have classes commensurate to junior secondary in every school in Bore. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, within the next 2 financial years, all our schools in Bore constituency will have junior secondary facilities commensurate to a secondary school, ranging from desks, classrooms, sanitary facilities, libraries, and laboratories. Mr. Speaker, our security organs need support. We cannot rely and say a government will be doing these things. I'm so proud because in all my five wards, we have now a police station, which was not there before. Why? Because we need good service from our security systems. Our police have been operating in a very bad, dilapidated offices, such that to the point that people don't want to say where they are working. So I'm proud to say that this is CDF. And therefore, members, let's not take advantage of this to mismanage. Let's utilize every coin. It is very important. I'm looking forward that the money will be released, the balance. I think on average all the constituencies have about 100 million shillings for this financial year. We are entering the next financial year where we still have over an average of 140 million. So, Mr. Speaker, I think once that money comes, you'll see more wonders on CDF. But it's a shame for those constituencies where money has been mismanaged. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Janet Sitienei.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to add my voice to the motion that is on. Mr. Speaker, I am one MP that has really, my people have really benefited with the NGCDF fund. And I want to say it is one fund that has helped many people, especially from poor backgrounds, to go to school, to go to colleges, and earn a living after that. It is one fund that needs to really be enhanced to be able to support our constituencies and support our families to improve their livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, it would be very sad if this fund is misappropriated and misused, because it is one fund that has equalized education in all our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, this fund, if it were enhanced, it would have actually assisted to move, it would have assisted our junior secondary schools be better placed or be better accessed, because at the moment we have very many challenges within our junior secondary schools. Most of the schools have no labs, and we would even wish, Mr. Speaker, that our board, NGCDF board, can allow that fund to be able to buy mobile labs in the meantime as we wait to build, for those who have not done the labs within their schools, to be able to do it. This is one fund, Mr. Speaker, NGCDF fund, that has actually improved enrollment of children in our schools. And Mr. Speaker, I want to put this, that this NGCDF fund has actually been felt within our communities. One, it supports the very needy, women, the widows, who have children and have nobody else to support them. The CDF fund, through the bursaries, have really helped them. The CDF fund has also helped to support those people who are old and have no earning to be able.
Order. The honorable member who has just crossed the floor and has been crossing the floor severally, a portion of this afternoon, the House paired under the the chairmanship of the Speaker to talk about order in this House. Could you go back and do the orderly thing? Just go back. You may proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just saying this fund has also been able to support people who have had challenges in terms of being able to pay NHIF fund. We have been able to identify very needy homes and supported them through the Social Security Fund, which is provided for in the CDF Act. And therefore, I want to say categorically that this is one fund that we would not take it lightly. We would only want to enhance it so that we can be able to support and reach out to very many people. Apart from improving enrollment, it has also been able to improve the mean grade in our schools. Because once we have the children going to school every day through provision of bursaries, then our mean scores in our schools have also improved. Mr. Speaker, some of those constituencies that we find still having classrooms without walls or concrete walls, it is very unfortunate. We would want to request that no child in this era of NGCDF should be living or should be studying in a classroom that is mud and grass-touched roofed, like we have seen in other places. So we would want to ask that what we had raised in the last term, that it may be enhanced to at least 5% to be able to cater for other facilities within the school. Mr. Speaker, you will also realize that it has also supported talent nurturing, that is sports, and it has also been able to support the climate change in terms of tree planting, and therefore we would also want to request, since we are all, we've been directed by His Excellency the President to be able to plant 15 billion trees. We should be able to use this fund to ensure that when we plant trees, how are we going to ensure that these trees are going to actually survive? They should allow us as members of parliament through the NGCDF committee to be able to fund people who are going to ensure, to protect these trees, to ensure that these trees grow and are able to support climate change in future and be able to improve the environment. Mr. Speaker, this is one fund that I want to say it has done a lot of things within the constituencies and the counties at large, and would want to support and say that we should never misappropriate these funds. We should be able to use these funds prudently so that very many schools benefit and the community and our children can be able to get better education. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice. Thank you.
Very well. Is the Honorable John Gitonga in the House? Is the Honorable Martin Wanyonyi in the House? And in the absence of Martin Wanyonyi, could we have Honorable Charles Onchonka Bonchari? Wow. So then let's have the Honorable Phyllis Bateau. Let me ask the honorable members who are in the House to put intervention right away. I will see you through intervention, just put intervention. The Honorable Beatrice Kimei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak to the motion that we have, consideration of the Auditor General report on the financial statement for NGCDF for some constituencies. Honorable Speaker, NGCDF and GAF, National Affirmative Action Fund, is very, very important, not only to the members, but mainly to the people of Kenya. I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because the members are just patrons of the fund or the funds, Honorable Speaker. What it has done is unmatched. Lives have been changed because of the NGCDF and NGAF. Students have gone to school, and especially from vulnerable families. Widows have actually had their children to school. Single mothers at the same time. People who are able differently have had their children go to school because of the NGCDF and even NGAF. And more importantly, there are those who would have dropped out of colleges and universities. But because of the availability of these funds, Honorable Speaker, they have been able to continue with their skills, continue with their learning. And I would actually say this is the fund that has done a turnaround in the lives of many. In Kericho County, in particular, Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate what has been done by NGCDF and NGAF. Infrastructure has been developed in schools. We also have the tea-buying centers, which have been improved. So when it comes to NGAF, Honorable Speaker, empowerment of youth, women, and people living with disability has actually happened. Honorable Speaker, I have an initiative that is called Usawa Kwa Wote. This is where we have very, very humble families getting support from NGAF. Recently, Honorable Speaker, through NGAF, those very vulnerable families were able to receive fertilizers and maize seeds, and especially to plant during this season. And now they are happy, though it did not reach everybody, Honorable Speaker. The 1,000 families who benefited from the same appreciate, and this will go hand in hand with ensuring that we have food security. Honorable Speaker, value addition is one of the areas that and NGAF and of course NGCDF has supported. In terms of agriculture, where we have coffee, tea, the vulnerable families have been able to receive, and I want to believe that in the near future, they will have a source of income. Honorable Speaker, I would actually say that NGCDF and GAV has given hope to the hopeless. Those who didn't know what to do next, there is hope through this and initiative that is coming from the government. And therefore, I want to believe that as members of this honorable house, we will work prudently to make sure that the use of these funds is done to reach the people who are supposed to receive and to benefit from the same. Talents have actually, people have actually improved their talents through these sporting activities, where we have ball games, athletics, among many others. And I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, that for NGAF, with the promise by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, that he will give an addition of 1 billion, and it will be something that will be good addition. That is 50% from what is already there for each county and of course each constituency. I know this one will go hand in hand with helping many, many more families. Honorable Speaker, with NGCDF and GAF, small and medium enterprises have actually improved. Women, youth, and even people living with disability have been able to have something to start businesses and even to add to the businesses that they already have. I believe this one, in the next 1 or 2 years, many of our people will actually have their lives improved. Honorable Speaker, water is key and water is life. Boreholes have been drilled. Through this, many families have been connected, but there is so much need to do the same. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, that the little that we have from GAF will actually go hand in hand with helping the many needy. I support Honorable Speaker, but I'm calling upon all the patrons to make sure that we work very closely with the people in the ground, the county coordinators, the DA, the procurement, and the port, the NGAF port, and the NGCDF port, to make sure that money is not misused, it is not misappropriated. This is what has caused re-election of the many members, and when we work very closely and reach the concerned, I know, Honorable Speaker, that this one will actually add value to many. When it comes to the side of health, Honorable Speaker, there are members of our communities who cannot pay for NHIF, the 500 shillings every month. They don't even have even 100 shillings, not even something for their food. And I believe members or patrons, when they pay for these members of the community from their constituencies, they are able, Honorable Speaker, to access the facility very easily. And I pray that it should be added, the NGCDF and GAF, and when this is done, more and more families will be able to benefit from the same. So I really want to support this and to say that more NGCDF, more GAF will lead to more members of the communities assessing the fund, and more support is actually needed. And with this, I support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, MP Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I stand to join my colleagues in the debate in support of the motion that has been presented by the Committee of the Central Funds of the National Assembly in respect of 26 constituencies in various counties in this country: Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, Taita Taveta, Lamu, and Tana River, for the financial year 2013-2014, 2014-2015, 2015-2016, that has been laid on the table of the House. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the financial years in which we are reviewing, it's a symptom of the challenges we have had as the National Assembly to execute our mandate under Article 95. Honorable Speaker, one of the mandates of the National Assembly is oversight, and oversight is exhibited through review of audited accounts of the various government funds that have been disbursed after being appropriated by this House. Honorable Speaker, there is obviously a basic rule that when the matter delays too much or justice delayed is justice denied. We are looking at 2013, 2014, up to 2016 financial years. Honorable Speaker, That is several years, a whopping almost 6 or so years behind schedule. Even if there was a misappropriation, even if there was some kind of unprofessional misconduct, Honorable Speaker, it becomes extremely difficult to bring the persons who are in charge to account for their misdeeds, for their misbehavior, for their acts of commission and omission. And therefore, it's my rallying call to the Central Fund Accounts Committee, and I'm glad the chair is here with us today, to find mechanisms to ensure that all the constituency accounts are audited or they have reviewed by the committee and presented to the National Assembly for debate, review, and adoption, so that at any given time we are up to date in respect of our mandate as members of the National Assembly. 6 years down the line, Honorable Speaker, even if there was misappropriation, the high turnover rate of the fund account managers becomes practically impossible to assess whether there was a value for money or not. I therefore call upon the National Assembly to accord the committee the necessary facilitation, the necessary resources, both financial and manpower, and technical manpower, to ensure that they review these reports and bring them to book. Honorable Speaker, it's also important for us, the National Assembly, we dispense of these accounts, because the normal narrative that's peddled outside there by the media, by misinformed civil society, and many other busybodies, is as if the members of parliament are the managers of these accounts. That's far from the truth. Honorable Speaker, the persons charged with accounting for this money is the fund account manager, the district accountant, and the constituent fund accounts committee, in totality with the CEO of the board. Members of parliament are not signatories anywhere. Members of parliament do not make any direct decisions in how the funds are utilized. So I want to urge the fourth estate, the media so to speak, that when they report, let them report objectively, knowing who are the people responsible for any misuse and for any misappropriation of public funds. Honorable Speaker, and I find this is a malady that affects even our colleagues here. They still have the mentality that the alpha and the omega of the CDF fund. Members of parliament have no role to play at all in day-to-day management of the fund. Therefore, any audit queries that are raised here, we do it through an oversight, and indeed you are at liberty to summon the CDFC committee plus the fund account manager to ask them to brief you on why there is a qualified report or whatever report in respect of any constituency. I want to ask my colleagues to desist tying themselves around the hip with the CDF, because whenever something goes wrong, the media will pick it up and the courts will always use it to frustrate the national government CDF committee. That said and done, Honorable Speaker, the impact of CDF cannot be gainsaid. What CDF has done to this country since it was enacted in 2003 is something that if we had developed this principle and discarded this funny thing called Harambe, this country would have gone very many years. Honorable Speaker, me and you and many colleagues here are invited in many churches to undertake Harambes to build churches. But you go back after 6 months or 1 year, they have invited somebody else to conduct a Harambe to undertake the same work that we are supposed to do. That's what we are simply, the conclusion is so simple. The inference is so simple that Harambe spirit, as noble as it was at the beginning of this country, lost its meaning along the way, and therefore that's why it was apt for us to bring the country to initiate the CDF committee, CDF approach that has helped to transform infrastructure. When it was able to do everything under the sun, you would find most water projects in constituencies were initiated by CDF. Many health facilities were initiated by CDF. Many economic empowerment programs were initiated by CDF. After the 2010 Constitution, Honorable Speaker, the only visible development you can see in a constituency that you go are those that have been built or funded and supervised by NG-CDF. And that also brings into question, devolution was always supposed to be improve the livelihood and welfare of the people of Kenya. Many all over, wherever you go, many Kenyans will ask you, what happened to the devolved fund that comes through the counties? What happened? We want to urge the governors and the county assemblies who oversight the governors and the CEC to borrow the model of CDF so that we are able to develop this country equally and fairly and equitably. Honorable Speaker, the debate has now started to rage. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. When we championed BBI, that the concept was the hallmark, many people demonized us and said BBI is bad. Now they are feeling the pinch, and that's why at any given time, when you legislate for prosperity, not for today, not to sort out today's problems, not for the basics of today, for political expedience of today, because later, sooner than later, whatever you are saying and whatever statements you are making will come to haunt you as at any given time. It will not take long. Honorable Speaker, schools are opening for second term. GSS is in progress. Many of us know the teething problem of GSS. With the delayed disbursement of funds from National Treasury, it means the challenges we have in GSS will remain with us forever for many, many years to come. It will therefore mean this particular academic year, those boys and girls who don beautiful uniform are wasting their time in classrooms, and that's lost opportunity. We want to urge the National Treasury, for the sake of the children of this country, for the sake of accelerated development of this country, please do all that you can to release the funds so that we are able, constituency committees are able to allocate and expend those funds before the end of the financial year, so the people of Kenya can see value for money. Money is of no use being retained in accounts. Money is of no use being kept somewhere. We want to see rapid development. And Honorable Speaker, all over the world, the government is the biggest spender. When the government is not spending, the economy contracts. Taxes are not being collected. So it's a paradox that the government does not spend and wants to collect money. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion and I urge the committee to move with speed, ensuring before the end of the year, we are almost in 2022, 2023. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. The Honorable Peter Ole Chapong. Peter Ole Chapong. I got the name right. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is Peter Lochakapong.
Very well.
So that is the name. And Honorable Speaker, I want to begin by, first of all, thanking you for giving me this chance to make a comment on the Auditor's General Report on the 26 NG-CDF constituencies. I want to begin by saying that this is an audit report of 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015, about 10 years or 11 years ago. And Honorable Speaker, whatever recommendations are made here, I don't know whether they will be of any value now, given the time that it has taken for these books of accounts to be looked at. However, I just want to say that that aside, NGCDF, the National Government Constituency Development Fund, is a fund that has targeted the lives of many people in this country, and it's a fund that has targeted the lives across the country. And this is one fund that has been decentralized and has effectively assisted communities and assisted Kenyans. I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that some of the recommendations by the committee that I have seen in this report, if they have not been already implemented, I think they should be implemented. One, that fund account managers should be facilitators rather than people who are a hindrance to the performance of the NGCDF. Many a times, they put a lot of roadblocks in implementation of projects. So I want to say that they also need to be given a portion to take responsibility on, especially when an audit report comes out. So the fund account managers should take some responsibilities. Now, we have also observed that by the time books were presented to the auditor for audit, certain documents were not failed. This points to poor bookkeeping by the fund account managers or the district accountants. And I want to say that in situations like that, they must also be held to account, because if somebody does not do his work by keeping record, then again, that responsibility should not be placed on the shoulder of another person who was not involved. Now, many times, Honorable Speaker, you realize that when reports come out of NGCDF affecting particular constituencies, the media and many other people are quick to point fingers at members of parliament. And you know, members of parliament, their role is very minimal. It's just to ensure that things are running smoothly. But actually, the people who account for these funds, who also budget for these funds, are the committees with the assistance and guidelines given to them by the board through the fund account managers. So I want it known that the members of parliament do not have a big role here. Theirs is just to ensure that work goes on well and that everything is done according to the guidelines that are released by the board. Honorable Speaker, I also want to say that in one of the recommendations by the committee, that the fund account managers should work with other government agencies and other departments in project selection, project identification, project costing, and even project budget. I want to dive a bit here because that increases bureaucracy of doing work. Because the time you spend in getting to these people, in liaising with them, is time that gets wasted. And I also want to say that we are in this country and we know that sometimes you can be misled into costing a project which would otherwise have costed maybe 800,000 a class, then you are given a big queue of 1.5 million. But because it is coming from a credible government institution, you are tempted to say, because these are people who are created to do this job, then they are doing the right thing, which sometimes may not be true. We have had situations where we have, in some cases, we can build a class for 600,000, a class for 800,000 in some areas, but when you give it to other government departments, agencies, they will give you even a class at a cost of about 2 million. And that may not help us, because we want to ensure that we spread this money and achieve value for money as much as possible within our constituencies. Honorable Speaker, I want to say this, that the National Government Constituency Development Fund have greatly helped our people. One, in allocation of bursaries, though not uniform throughout this country, but this has ensured that our children go to school, that is access education, and they are also retained in those institutions through the bursary we allocate to them, which is a good thing. Two, we have also developed school infrastructure. We have built classes. We have also, in some cases, built dormitories, laboratories. This has improved the performance, the academic performance in those institutions. In some cases, Honorable Speaker, we have also, and the majority of us have also procured buses for our schools. These buses have easen the way our students move, either going for symposiums or geographical trips or excursions. And this has greatly even reduced accidents because they are traveling in their own bus, and school buses are normally well maintained in terms of servicing and all that. Honorable Speaker, in places like where I come from that are prone to insecurity, we have, through the CDF, established police posts, built police posts, built chief's offices that have assisted greatly in bringing services closer to the people. And all this is courtesy of CDF. So I want to say that has greatly helped us in those places where we have issues of banditry, cattle rustling, and all that. We have been able to build security camps, and this has really helped us. Honorable Speaker, I have seen in this report where they were suggesting that we give a guideline on the use of emergency funds within the CDF. I want, however, to say that the emergency funds provided for within CDF has greatly assisted and at times of emergencies. You find that sometimes in situations where a school has had a collapsed toilet, CDF responds very fast. A school has been blown off by wind, CDF comes in to respond very fast. And I think it is only CDF that is very near to the people, and its response is almost instant and timely through the emergency funds within CDF. I wanted to say that they should not put a lot of restrictions on these funds, because if that is done, then it will fail to respond in good time and to solve the problem, and therefore it now becomes not an emergency, but just a fund like any other fund that you now take a long process to get. So I want to say that regulations and guidelines on emergencies should be a bit relaxed and should be reduced, so that immediately we have an emergency, then we can, as soon as possible, just respond and help that institution. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that if all of us follow whatever guidelines are given to manage CDF, I think this country will move forward. I want to say that through proper utilization of national government CDF, personally, I have had to be re-elected for a second time in a constituency which otherwise would not elect people for 2 consecutive times. So I want to thank the people of Sigor for this, and of course commit that we are going to prudently manage constituency development fund as we have been doing for the betterment of our people and to improve lives of our people and ensure that as many of our children access education as possible. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to support this report.
Very well. The whip I can see you on the list here, but you have already spoken on this. No. The rules of this House don't allow for that. You did very well, and that should suffice. Let's have the veteran legislator, Jane Kihara, MP Naivasha.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, to give me a chance to speak on this auditor's report on NGCDF. Mr. Speaker, like you rightly say, I'm a pioneer in matters NGCDF. We passed it in this House in 2003. And forever I remain applauding the Honorable Engineer Muriuki Karue, who came up with the idea of NGCDF. And if I just give a short history of what he used to tell us, because he was the pioneer, also chairman, is that development in this country used to be so skewed to the regions that support the government of the day. And when he was young as in school, he was able to understand things. He would go to DC's meetings and PC's meeting, and people would request for projects or developments. And the answer would be, yes, it will be done when funds become available. So he kept on asking himself, when are these funds going to be available? And since that time, he started now working very hard to be in Parliament and come up with this idea of bringing equality in the country. Mr. Speaker, I also happened to be in the pioneer NGCDF committee. That time it was just CDF. And we went around this country. It's unfortunate because that time, CDF addressed each and every development or every need. I remember I did a lot of health centers. I did a lot of water projects. I did maternity in health projects, in health centers. So it used to cover each and every.
Yes, Honorable Osoro. Is it information or order? Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, the member that spoke before Honorable Jane and the Honorable Jane are on record saying that they did using the funds. Yet we all know that NGCDF is not directly, under the account of honorable members. We only oversight. We are actually patrons. So when a honorable member says, I did this and this, I mean, members of the public will imagine that possibly we draw this amount of money from our accounts and then go and build the classrooms. We only oversight, and I just wanted to inform Honorable Jane, our roles are limited to Article 95, oversighting the funds, and that is what we do. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well, but you must remember, Honorable Soro, you are informing a veteran legislator who was there when this bill was in the House, 2003.
Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed, Honorable Member.
I don't want to say that he's just being, let me not say it. Because, Mr. Speaker, we all know any development projects that people want, people will go to your constituency office or to you. In fact, that is what we are saying. Much as we just oversight, much as
it we hear from the honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed. What is it?
Protect me, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I'm raising on standing order number 35 that there's no quorum in the room, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Very well. A member has risen from his place and has indicated that we don't have quorum. The clerks and the sergeant at arms, could we have vision bell rang? The division bell. Order, members, only the whips can go out. No member is allowed to walk out of the house now, except the whips. Order, members. The division bell, having rung the division bell for 10 minutes, and I can still confirm that we don't have quorum in the House. Honorable members, and the time being 6:11 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Tuesday, 6th June 2023 at 2:30 p.m. The Honorable Jane Kiara has a balance of 6 minutes.